Welcome to Caribbean Classics Day, sponsored by Horda Education. I am James Nalfos and I will be your moderator. I hope you enjoy listening to some of the excerpts of Horda Caribbean Classics. Do not hesitate to get a copy of your favorite Horda text. The novel entitled Nevile and the Lost Bridge was written by Debbie Jacob. The novel, set in the Caribbean in 2222, is the story of three 13-year-olds who live and work on bridges. Nina accidentally discovers land while repairing a bridge one day. Unfortunately, Nina goes missing and the search for her takes Nevile and his friend, A.T., throughout the Caribbean to find her. Along the journey, they encounter a Guyanese Baku, folklore characters, tobacco mermen and fairy maids, a witch and the evil king who rule the region, all before they end up in Jamaica. It is a story of friendship, loyalty, power, and the abuse of power, discovering the sense of purpose and rediscovering a lost culture. An excerpt of this novel will be read by Mr. Dawson Ragunanan. Mr. Ragunanan is a Deputy Chief Education Officer for Instruction. As a leader in the education sector, he seeks innovative ways to reform the education system. He is also an avid community worker with a zeal for initiating community projects for marginalized youth. He continues to look for opportunities to excel in all endeavors. What does friendship and loyalty mean? How do we know when we are safe? And what makes us so? Who can we trust?
I'm going to be reading Chapter 3, Shocking News. Your crew is waiting for you at the gate, said the glass robot at Post 1, as it signaled the way out of the compound. Although he felt a bit queasy and lost after his treatment in the Rejuvenation Center, Nevile managed to make his way into the collection booth and claim his toolkit, helmet, and identification necklace. With his work number engraved on it, he slipped the necklace on and tucked it inside his protective suit. This was the only place where bridgers ever took their ID necklaces. And that was only because they could not wear metal into the Rejuvenation Treatment Center. After he had collected everything, Nevile, still a bit shaky, slowly wended his way toward the exit. "Stop!" cried a band of RC robot guards, who ran, creaking all the way to Nevile. When they reached him, the chief robot and gate guard in charge of guarding all of Arabia's borders stepped forward. Turning in stiff formation, the other guards departed, while their leader held Nevile in conversation. "What's wrong with Nevile?" Nina asked. "He looks strange." "I don't know," said A.T. "We'll soon find out." Nevile was speechless when he reached his trusted teammates. As the gate closed behind him, he finally managed to murmur, "I've been reassigned to Fortini's salt mine." "That can't be," cried Nina. "No one knows these bridges like you. What happened?" Nevile shrugged. "I don't know. They didn't give me any explanation." "It doesn't make any sense," said Nina. A.T. stepped forward. "You did something wrong." "You would think that," said Nina. "You always think the worst." Kindness and fairness do not always live in the same house. For if the truth were known, A.T. was making a perfectly fair assumption, and Nina was being unfair. For the bridgers in the Kingdom of Arabia, there were only three jobs: building bridges, growing food, and producing salt. Working in the salt mines was the job that most bridgers got when they had done something wrong. From the age of 4, Arabians began their careers in one of these three assigned areas. They remained as working Arabians until the age of 25, when they graduated from the work world and began attending school. Each Arabian family started at 21. so that by the time they went to school, they had settled their children in their jobs. They all started working on the greenhouse bridges, and some worked their way up to building bridges. Those who were lazy or bad at their jobs, they went to the salt mines. The only exceptions to that were the leaders in charge of the salt mines. The most exemplary taskmasters in the fields became heads of the salt mines, where Arabians had to work the hardest. This was the way of life for all Arabians. There were other workers in Arabia. Capuchin monkeys doled out the food at meals. Howler monkeys performed menial tasks like carrying the bridge makers and farmers' supplies. And glass robots with color-coded wires and flashing lights in their bellies served as guards. Robot guards carried out their duties mechanically, and their contributions were undeniable. They made Arabia a place that ran smoothly. In Arabia, nearly everything was made of glass. Glass covered the metal frames of endless bridges, crisscrossing their way across the sea. Arabians walk on long stretches of glass on the carriageway of the bridges, and the night capsules were made from glass. It was a world of extraordinary strong glass, held together by recycled metal, steel, and aluminum. No one knew where the piles of metal came from. All they knew was that endless lines of glass robots carried the metal across the bridges of Arabia. The glass that Arabians used came from the salt mines, the very place where Nevile was reassigned. From there, Arabians mined salt, silt, and sand, which they separated from the ocean water. There were monkeys who had perfected the fine art of blowing glass. So working in the salt mines was not a job Nevile looked forward on his 13-month-long journey across the bridges of Arabia to reach Fortini's salt mine. With no joy whatsoever, he joined the line of reassigned Arabians and followed the path marked out for him with flashing blue lights under the glass blocks where he walked. He stopped only at the greenhouses along the way to replenish his supply of blue food, cassava, sweet potatoes, and carrots, any vegetable with blue roots, blue as the sky on a cloudless day. Daily helpings of blue food, leavened bread and butter, along with salt fish, were doled out in weekly ration boxes made of glass. If a worker dropped his box and broke it, the box would not be replaced for a month. So workers had to camp by a greenhouse and get daily rations until they were issued a new box. Arabians could get up to 24 hours rest leave to camp outside a greenhouse. Nevile always took his leave. Although he did not like the steamy environment on the other side of the closed doors where Arabia's farmers grew their crops in rows of flower pots, he did enjoy sitting outside the greenhouse and watching the workers tending to the neat rows of plants. Sometimes Nevile could imagine himself as part of this simple life, watering plants and plucking weeds from the flower pots. There seemed to be no deadlines. Life was as orderly as the endless, neat rows of potted trees lining the glass walls. The only problem was that the Arabians working on the farms had begun to resemble monkeys. They walked hunched over and scurried about, just like the monkeys on the bridge. Their biggest joy came from passing out supplies to Arabians when they first arrived at the greenhouses. The outpost for the salt mine was a far cry from the greenhouses or the engineering stations. A grey sheet of sky that turned the Corbo black at night covered the glass-domed roof. There were no night capsules. Arabians in the salt mines slept in round glass huts near the bridge's entrance into the salt mines. No one seemed to be in charge. Here, the world as Nevile knew it came to an end. The bridge ended here, and there was nowhere to go except down into the salt mine. Fortini picked Nevile out of the crowd of newcomers immediately. She was expecting her brother, and she greeted him with a salute, but she sent Tua to lead him through the crowd. "Have you forgotten me?" Tua asked when she parted the sea of people. Nevile studied the silky voice that greeted him. He did not recognize the voice, but he thought that he had heard the name Tua somewhere before. "I'm sorry," she said. Tua shrugged. "It's all right. I wouldn't expect you to remember." Tua led Nevile through the noisy crowd to his sister. "Think of it this way," said Fortini, when she saw that sad look on her brother's face. "This is a chance for us to be together. Brothers and sisters rarely draw the same assignments." "And it's not so bad," said Tua. "When you think about it, everything you see in Arabia begins here with our work." "Everything has a purpose," said Tua. She seemed to be searching Nevile's face for some sign that she was remembering her, and her wrinkled brow suggested that she was worried that he didn't. Tua was assigned to Nevile's orientation. In the day, he would visit the salt mines farm where he would learn which food to keep in his hut and which to take on his mission in the salt mine. "When you leave the bridge, you must only take salted fish and dry salted mango," said Tua. "Sometimes you can get salted lime rinds." "Never take any fresh food," warned Tua. "Why not?" asked Nevile. Tua stopped walking. "I don't know. It's the rule. Arabians have long forgotten that salted food keep people from flying." For the most part, Arabians had no cat food that had roots. At the salt mines greenhouse, Nevile could eat carrots, potatoes, and cassava. "This is the food that will prepare you for your journey," Fortini had told him.
We hope you have enjoyed this edition of Caribbean Classics Day, sponsored by Horder Education. For more of this titled and many others, visit hordereducation.co.uk. Stay tuned for our next episode. Please remain safe and set aside time to engage in reading. I am Jameson Alphos, saying goodbye for now.